Hi everyone, today I will be teaching you how to draw and shade the eye. So first I'm using my pencil as a guide to measure the angle of the inner part of the eye. So I held my pencil right against that angle and then I transferred that angle right over to my paper. Now I'm doing the same thing with the outer side of the eye and then just lightly connecting them. You may have to check yourself a few times just to make sure you get that angle just right. Now I'm beginning to find the inner corner and the bottom eyelid. So lightly penciling that in, really observing where I'm seeing the lines in my gridded photo and trying to recreate that on the grid on my paper, really paying attention to where each line falls within each individual box. So as you can see, I'm using my pencil to go back to my picture, point to the spot, and then find that same spot in the grid on my drawing paper. So now I'm starting to pencil in where the iris is, which is the colored part of your eye. So I'm finding that curved shape within the eye. When you're looking at an eye, you do not see the entire iris because of the eyelids coming over top of it. So you won't see a full circle. You'll just see those two parenthesis type shapes. Then I'm putting in the pupil and a tiny little reflection I see in the eye. I'm just going to go ahead and sharpen my pencil when I start to shade the inner part of the eye. You'll want a nice sharp tip because the eye has this kind of radial pattern. So you'll want a nice sharp tip on your pencil in order to recreate that. Real quickly, I'm noticing that the inner part of my iris was slightly off. The angle I had made it slightly too big. So I'm just going ahead and changing that. Erasing away a little bit of the grid on my photo just to see more detail on the inner part of the eye because it's so small in my photo. So now I'm just drawing in the tear duct, which is that little pink part on the inner part of your eye, so that'll get some value to it. And that separates the inner corner of the eye from the white of the eye, and then the white of the eye is in between the tear duct and the iris. Now I'm just going in and beginning to shade in the iris, again using that radial pattern I was talking about. So similar to the sun, just starting at the center and radiating outward, as if you were to draw some sun rays coming out of your pupil. So you'll start off with some darker rays, and then as you get to the edges, you'll want to get a little bit lighter. It depends on the color of your eye as well as the patterning in your eye. So it might be helpful to take a look at your own iris when completing your portrait. So now I'm starting to sketch in the upper eyelid. So I'm really following that angle and looking at where each point is on my grid. So it's thinner on the inner corner of the eye, and then it gets a little bit wider as we move outward. I'm going to just add some shading and darken up a few of my lines so I can start to get some value into the skin tones. What I'm adding at the edges here are some little crow's feet that I noticed in the eye that I'm drawing based off of the picture. So you can feel free to add those smaller details you see. And then I'm really darkening behind the upper eyelid where the eye is back in shadow because of the brow bone protruding over top in front of it. So it's going to get pretty dark back there depending on your light source. But typically when we're looking at the face, those features that sit backwards, such as the eyeballs sitting back in the eye socket, there's going to be some cast shadows, especially because of the brow protruding over top. So the inner part is going to be darker, and then as we go closer to the eyebrow, it starts to get a little bit lighter. I'm adding in the lower eyelid. So oftentimes if you see a smiling photo of someone, you'll notice that there's a few little wrinkles underneath the eye from that smile. So I'm adding those in, as well as the shading of these skin tones in that area. Now that I've added my skin tones, I'm noticing that my eye isn't quite dark enough. So just going back in to darken that up. Value is relative, so as you continue to add value throughout your portrait, you may notice that you'll have to darken or lighten some other areas you've already completed. Beginning to add in some smaller shadows I see, such as the shadow under the right eye in the photo that is cast because of the bang falling over top, as well as the smile lines protruding over top, creating that cast shadow. Just penciling that in and smoothing over a few areas. Now moving on to the eyebrows. So what you want to do to start off is just add a base layer of hatching. Underneath the individual eyebrow hairs you can still see some skin. So I'm just adding that in so that we don't have just that blank white paper color coming out behind the eyebrow hairs. So we see a few individual eyebrow hairs that stick out in the front. So I'm taking the time to really pull those out. And then I am creating the following eyebrow hairs by starting at the bottom and flicking my pencil out and away, upward and to the side, so that I can follow the pattern of the eyebrow hairs. Typically, the eyebrows, the hairs come up and out, so you'll want to repeat that on each side. And finally, on to the eyelashes. So similar to the eyebrows, just a quick flick of the pencil, but with the eyelashes, you're going slightly down and then up and out, because the eyelashes have a little curve to them, so slightly down and then up and out. You want to keep them really soft and wispy. Then I'm adding a few on the bottom, not too many, because we have far less eyelashes on the bottom than on the top. And there you have it. Your eye is all finished. Thanks for watching.